So I wanted to make this quick video today because I noticed the biggest problem if you're trying to book meetings for your agency, for your coaching business, especially if you're trying to book meetings for your coaching business in the B2C space, is that people will get on calls to waste your time and you're going to get a lot of unqualified appointments. And this applies to you if you're booking 5 meetings per week, 2 meetings per week even, or if you're booking 50 to 100 meetings per week, this still applies to you. And I think even if you're booking more meetings, so 50 to 100 meetings per week, this process applies to you even more because you're the one who gets the most disqualified calls and you're the one who wastes the most time on those disqualified calls, which is really a big problem. Of all the resources, the time, the energy that go into those calls, this system, you can possibly remove discovery calls completely off your calendar so that you don't have to take discovery calls because you'll be able to triage people through chat without having to get on the discovery call to triage them. This system, you can just start taking sales calls with only qualified leads and stop wasting your time. By setting up an almost automated qualification flow that will beat any Calendly, any Typeform, any sort of qualification process you have right now, the biggest problems with those automated qualification flows is that they don't really qualify anyone because people will lie to get on the call with you and maybe gain some free value from your expertise, or they won't even lie, but maybe you just can't even ask all of those triaging questions through your form or through your Calendly. Hey guys, so today I wanted to cover probably the most important issue in the agency space, in the coaching space. If you basically need calls to sell your offer, probably a problem that you faced in the past, or most likely you're still facing. And honestly, it's not your fault, but today I want to explain how you mitigate this problem and how you basically eliminate it entirely. And that problem is unqualified leads. So we're going to discuss exactly how you eliminate unqualified calls from your calendar almost entirely without doing discovery calls. So with this system that I'm going to show you today, you're able to ditch discovery calls, so save time there, right? And only take qualified sales calls from now on. And this is all without relying on any Calendly forms, because it's not a secret that any Calendly forms, any pre-call qualifying questions don't really always do the job that you intend them to do. And this is because prospects can lie to just get on a call with you and pick your brain. Or some prospects might have that excuse that, I'm just getting on this call because I just wanted to learn a little bit more about what you're doing, or I just wanted to learn a little bit more about you. That happens often as well, and those leads are not qualified and they just waste your time. You see, again, people are fine with spinning their story, lying to get your expertise, because on that call, they're expecting to get expertise and consulting for you for free. And that's just something that happens in our market today, but this is how you mitigate it. Before we let anyone on a call with our clients, we make sure to hyper qualify them. We are able to get their goals, where they are financially, their willingness to actually invest in themselves, and any other qualifiers you need, no matter how big or small those qualifying questions are. Again, it could be a question that literally asks them how much they have in their savings. It could be a question that asks them how willing are they to do this right now, how willing are they to act on this week. And I think this has been happening for a very long time. People give the excuse that this is not the right time for me, or I'm not ready to do this right now. So that's a major qualifying question we can cross off the list and only let people on who are ready to do it and take action now and who have urgency. We're able to basically qualify all of these things before we even let them on a call with you. Then for the qualified prospects, the answers will get sent to you in a Google form to your email. So then before you or a closer gets on the call, you're going to be able to have context as to who you're about to have a sales call with. Because again, the whole point of this system is to help you ditch discovery calls. Now that doesn't mean that you have to ditch discovery calls, but with this system, that is an option, so you can save time and invest that time into actually what you love doing, whether that's coaching, whether that's client fulfillment, whatever you want to actually work on in your business or your life. Now, I need to talk about growth specialist in this whole model, but before I cover the role of a growth specialist in this system, I need to explain the difference between a VA, a virtual assistant, and a growth specialist. The difference is actually quite simple. A VA and a setter, they have to rely on emotional scripts, they have to rely on pre-scripted replies, while a growth specialist is able to gain leverage in the conversation and actually build genuine connections with your prospects, which is absolutely crucial when asking these tough qualifying questions, like questions about their financial situation or their willingness to take action right now, or whatever other questions you might be asking on your triage calls. These questions can get asked through chat, but they're only possible to ask if you have someone who can build those rapport touch points effectively and actually leverage the conversation to continue the conversation and gain leverage in that conversation itself. It's only possible to use these tough questions if there's a growth specialist who is naturally able to insert such questions into these conversations. So essentially, a growth specialist is able to triage prospects through chat to remove the need for you or your team to take discovery calls entirely, and instead only spend your time on hyper qualified sales calls or strategy sessions, if that's something you want to call that. No matter where, and the best part is, no matter what your source of calls is right now, as long as you're getting some sort of prospect's contact information before they book that call or even after, a growth specialist is able to leverage that information to get in touch with that prospect and make sure that they are a good fit to speak with you. Although I do need to be honest, if your main source of calls right now is social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter even, it's going to be a lot easier to actually get started and implement this system than if your main source of booking calls is something like an automated webinar. But if you're able to get your prospects' phone numbers from those automated webinars or whatever selling method you have, this system can still apply and be leveraged. So there are actually two things that you need to set up to be able to set up this qualification machine of your own. A is an intricate list of disqualifications that disqualify potential prospects from becoming your clients or from being a good fit, and B is a growth specialist. For A, you can literally have every single disqualifier, every single triage question that aims to qualify your prospects. It could even be your triage script. And this is because it can all be converted into chat flows that will authentically engage the prospects and even build rapport during qualification processes with the growth specialists, making the prospects feel good about themselves, motivating them, and establishing that genuine connection with them and genuine friendship with them while they're qualifying them. The questions need to have some sort of parameters that will count as qualifying or disqualifying. For example, if you're selling an offer that's above $5,000, and the prospect needs to have that to actually be able to invest it in your offer. If the prospect is under 5K USD in savings, or maybe they don't have that, they can't borrow any cash or take a loan out to be able to pay for your program, that would mean that they're disqualified. And if they have over 5K USD, that would mean they're qualified. This is literally a question that can be posed in chat and used to qualify prospects. Another question could be, maybe you work with prospects who have been in your niche or who have been trying and failing in your niche for a specific amount of time. For example, a performance-based client only works with engineers who are between 3 and 15 years in their career. So in this case, it could be the prospect has been struggling with a specific challenge for over 6 months. This would qualify them. And then if a prospect has been struggling with a challenge for less than 6 months, this would disqualify them. Not only can these questions be used to qualify your prospects before the call, they can also be used to handle objections through chat and basically minimize all objections with the growth specialist overcoming them in chat and then pre-framing those prospects to not give those objections again when they're on that sales call, which basically increases your closing rate as a result of this because of all that pre-framing that takes place and rapport building that takes place before that call. Now, it's easier for me to show you how this flow works than it is to tell you. So let me show you an example of a very, very specific qualification flow we previously built for an Amazon FBA coaching client, which is currently a hyper-aware market. So here's a qualification flow that we were forced to build out for this specific offer. Huge disqualifier for this client was prospects who are already taking a program or who were getting coached by someone else on Amazon FBA or who maybe bought a course and who were happy with it. So here's how we qualified them and basically hyper-qualified them that they aren't in a program, or at least if they are in a program, they're willing to get into another program to actually boost their results even more. After, the growth specialist would ask them a few qualifying questions to just understand how long they were doing Amazon, what are they doing with Amazon, what strategies are they using right now, and before giving them the knowledge gaps, so before using any sales assets in this process, we would qualify them if they're even worth talking to in terms of, are they in a program, are we even going to be able to book them on a call and sell them if they are in a program. Just to excuse the slang inside of this qualification flow, this has a lower age range, in below 30 years old, so some of this wording is a lot more casual. Obviously, if you're in an offer that requires a more formal approach, that can be done. This offer requires a more friendly approach, why the language used in this flow is a little bit more casual. Based on what I'm seeing, you seem to be on top of it. Where do you get all of your knowledge from? You see, in this qualification flow, there's an issue with grammar. And all of the grammar issues are actually purposeful. The reason for that is if you have perfect written sentences, no grammar issues, prospects can tell that it's a script. It seems like a bot. But as humans, we usually make mistakes while we're typing on our phone because we're typing fast. So that's what we try to implement into these flows So even if the growth specialists decide to use the script as part of their flow, as part of their conversation, they don't seem like robots or a chatbot just replying to these prospects. Then we ask them, where do you get all your knowledge from? You in a program or something, right? We're trying to pick and pry and see, are they working with someone else already? So will they even be able to work with us? So now there's two different forks in the map here, or in the road, where the prospect can go. So if they say no, they're not in the program, perfect. We know that now we can sell them, we can get them on a call because they need some guidance. They will most likely need some guidance if they pass the other qualifying questions. So if they answer no, wow, great to see you manage on your own. Too many gurus pushing BS in this space. If they said no, you now know they're qualified for the call and you won't come back to this topic. Now here's what happens if they said yes. It's actually a pretty intricate qualification flow because we need to hyper qualify them before we get them on a call. That's the whole point of this system. Now that we know they are in some sort of program or course, would you say it was worth it for the money for you? Some of these gurus just give away some frameworks but never drop any real game in their course. But definitely some real ones out there, LOL. Again, more casual slang because we're trying to have the perfect product market fit here with our language, with all of these flows. If they answer no, I don't think it's worth my money, or maybe they're not very sure if it's worth their money, we know that they've probably been burnt by some guru who sold them something that isn't really helpful. So if they've been burnt in the past, you now know that they are qualified for the call, but now you have to empathize with them to further your bond and leverage the fact that they were burnt. Very important here. This builds that additional point of rapport, building that friendship with these prospects, and this is what the growth specialists are able to do. They would say, that's terrible. It's so sad to see how many scammers exist in our space. There's kids who can just rent a Lambo for a day and become the guru the next without ever giving the value people give them their savings. Look at the bright side, bro. Most important part is that even though you have a setback, you kept moving forward and putting in the work to make it all work out. So we're motivating them here and we're creating that additional touch point of rapport by building up a friendship and a genuine connection. Now here's what happens if they say they are happy with the program. We move on to the second phase to basically double check that they are happy with the program they're currently in. Because the thing is, most prospects, when you contact them or they contact you for a reason. They don't contact you or they don't respond to you just to find out a little bit more about you. They contact you to solve some sort of pain point. So knowing that, we need to double check if they are actually happy with that program, and if they are happy, why are they even speaking to us? What is the value they need from us? So that's where phase 2 comes in, and it's kind of the hyper qualification, the double qualification in this process. So bro, that's great to hear for once. Had a few friends pay for programs that had no real value because there were way too many scammers in the space now. Now you continue the normal conversation, pose a knowledge gap question, so basically find what inefficiencies they have, because again, if they're still speaking to us, most likely they're speaking to us because they need to solve some pain point or they're trying to find some value that they're not getting in this program or in the program they're already in. That's the thought process behind this qualification flow. So now we're trying to find what is that inefficiency they have. And with this, when we build rapport with sales assets, we find inefficiencies, we send them sales assets, we're able to reapproach such questions like this, hard qualifying questions, same with finances questions. If someone doesn't answer a finances question right away, usually the problem is you didn't build enough rapport beforehand, but that doesn't mean that the conversation is lost. You just rebuild that rapport to the point where you can repose and reposition that financial question and say how capable are they to invest financially. Here we're going to ask them about their goals again, because again, if they're so happy with their program, we need to find their goals and then understand why are they not hitting those goals if they are happy with the program they're in. If they say they didn't hit the goal last month, we say, don't worry, I can see how driven you are. You'll definitely hit it this month. Again, we're building that emotional point of rapport, that friendship. Now we're bringing back that program. So after building a little bit more rapport now, we're able to repose that program question. So now we're saying, I do remember that you mentioned that program. Are they not helping you enough to make sure that you're killing it? And this question is going to make the prospect think, I didn't hit my sales goal last month. Is it because of me? Or is it because the program is not giving me enough of a strategy, not giving me enough value to get me to my goals? So now they will be questioning their own beliefs. From here, empathize with them and either give them more value by asking them what exactly their current program isn't helping with, or just lead them to the call. Because again, you're trying to change their beliefs, you're asking tough questions. So, if you have this program that you like, why aren't you hitting your sales goals? And then from your answer to those questions, you can either solve for the reason why they're not hitting their sales goals by sending them a resource or just leading them directly to the call, depending on how high the acceptance is in that conversation. This is what happens if they did hit their monthly goal, right? We have a flow, a fork in the map for everything. We need to cover every single scenario. So you're gonna say, yo, that's great to hear, G. Remember you mentioned the program you took. Are they holding your hand throughout this entire process? So we need to see, did they just buy a course for that program? How actually comprehensive is the program they're in? If they keep giving you good remarks about that program, or keep giving the growth specialist good remarks about that program in this scenario, if they're still happy with it and feel like they're being helped at all times, the growth specialists are going to ask the final question in the map, which is first acknowledge their response. If they're still killing it, the program is helping them, that's great to hear, so love to hear it. And do you feel like you can scale to your target revenue number, whatever they said, let's say 30K per month, in the next 90 days with all the systems they're teaching? And after that, the setters are again going to acknowledge this to build, to make sure that the prospect doesn't get spooked. They're probably helping you with that inefficiency too. Again, we found out the inefficiencies the prospect has right here through this flow. So now we know what challenges they have. So now this is like the last time we can pry at that inefficiency. And if the prospect says, yep, they're helping me with that inefficiency too, they're helping me overcome that challenge so that I can hit 30K per month in the next 90 days, we know we're not going to book these people on a call because they're already in a program they're happy with, and there's no point to try to sell them. And if the answer is no, they're not going to help me with my challenge, or I don't think I can hit 30K per month in the next 90 days because XYZ, we bring them back to this, to where we help them with that inefficiency, help them with that challenge with either a resource, or we just book them directly onto a call to figure out. So you know how the qualification flow actually flows. You can either set up a flow for your own qualifying, or if you'd like us to help you set this flow up for all of your qualifying questions, send me a DM and we can get on a call to help you do so. Now that we covered A off the list, now we need to go over B. So how do you actually get a growth specialist? For B, you will need to find and train a growth specialist to utilize these flows while keeping the conversations not robotic. And this is very important. A growth specialist is a person who is able to have genuine conversations with people and sound like a human, which a lot of setters and VAs are just not able to, especially if they're relying heavily on those scripts, which is not the purpose of a growth specialist. Or at least if they are relying on the scripts, they should be able to deviate from those scripts within a few days of relying on those scripts and understanding how the market reacts to them. And then they can actually create their own scripts and their own replies that they can use to take your rates even higher. So for the cheapest growth specialist, you can just hire a VA from a third world country and train them through this entire process. Usually, a VA can become a GS after 3 to 5 weeks, plus on-the-job training and experience. This was how I got my growth specialist personally. Alternatively, you can hire a more experienced setter that has more experience with conversations, but they will have to be still trained for this exact qualification flow, or for the qualification flow you want to use. Now, if you want to avoid all of these headaches, just send me a DM and we will place a GS or growth specialist for you and set up all of these qualifications to guarantee that you get a minimum of a 90% qualification flow on your calendar. The question remains, should you actually keep your form? Should you keep your Calendly form? Should you keep those questions up? So you can actually keep your qualification flow in the calendar as that double proof step, but I do suggest that you remove it and implement the system, because the form can actually have adverse effects on the prospect who's about to book. For example, if you're asking them how much are they willing to invest, something a growth specialist can ask naturally. When you ask that through a form, that just seems like you're trying to take that prospect's money. And when a growth specialist does it through a conversation, naturally, right, not just throws that question out at them, it just seems natural, and the prospect is going to be a lot more willing to answer it without getting spooked or without having any thoughts that you're just someone who's just trying to take their money. The growth specialist qualification process not only qualifies your prospect, but also builds rapport in this process, because again, it builds that friendship, it builds that relationship with the prospect, which is not something a form or a type form or whatever questionnaire you're using can ever do. So if you have any questions, send me a DM again, and if you have urgency and want to implement this system to test this process within the next 7 days, shoot me that DM and we will place a setter into your business, help you set up these qualification flows to make sure that you get a 90% meeting qualification flow on your calendar upon implementation. Hopefully that video helps. Hopefully you can set up these flows in your own business. Nothing about it after seeing this video. Again, if you have any questions about this flow, and even implement the growth specialist so you can test this flow within the next 7 days and get your qualification rate to 90% and above upon implementation. Please just take action.